Here's the part that gets me assassinated by Chinese spies. So if you never see me again, it's been nice knowing you. Totally worth it. Actually, if they kill me over this, it'll be a good death. This isn't one of the issues that's, well, this is one of many issues, and you just notice I seem to have a hard-on for this one issue. It's like, Scott, why are you so obsessed about this little issue when there's so many other things? So many other things are not going to put you in a fucking concentration camp. This will. That will put you in a fucking concentration camp if you let that problem go. That's how big it is. If you don't see that as a military problem, you don't see the whole field. So there are two theories. One of them is just a coincidental, random, bad year when everything happened, and the other one is that we're at war with China. And the war with China explains every frickin' thing that you saw. Every bad decision, every absurdity, every bit of fake news could all be explained by China. What do you make of the fact that I don't know the answer to that? Does this sound like, so just see which parts you agree with, and then we'll see if we have any disagreement here. Do we agree that the country is unclear on this question? Would you say that that statement is true, that the public is unclear? You think you know the answer, but the public is unclear on whether the fraud allegations have even been looked at by the court, right? Now, some are saying, I'm seeing a little bit of disagreement here. Now, how could we be in this situation? How could it be this far after the election, when the election is the biggest news in the country, and the question of whether the courts have seen any fraud is the biggest question on the biggest topic in the whole country, right? It's the biggest question. How do I not know the answer to it? How does the public not know the answer to it? It's almost as if there was some kind of external force that is keeping us from understanding even the simplest questions. Some kind of force, maybe even outside the country. For example, did you know, and I guess Raheem Kassam was tweeting on this, Raheem Kassam. He said that on his show today, they're going to reveal that every major Western media outlet is compromised by the Chinese Communist Party, and we show the receipts. And he lists CNN, The Atlantic, BBC, Reuters, Washington Post, The Hill, AFP, Bloomberg, you name it. So according to some people who have looked into this, it would seem that China has infiltrated, at least in a monetary way, all of our major news sources. Now, if China was, let's say, influencing our news sources, what would that look like? Well, let me take this to a wider context. Are you ready? Here's the part that gets me assassinated by Chinese spies. So if you never see me again, it's been nice knowing you. Totally worth it. Actually, if they kill me over this, it'll be a good death. I hate to be a Klingon about it, but if I get killed over this, it's worth it. Totally worth it. Let me show you my view of our world. And I tend to look at things as sort of a fake engineer. I'm not really an engineer, but I spend enough time around them that I pick up some thinking patterns. And so I see the world as sort of like a machine with lots of moving parts that are connected. And you can't really change any one of the moving parts without affecting the whole machine. But because we're humans, and because the news needs to be simplified for our little brains, we often look at one part of the machine as if we can analyze it in isolation. But that doesn't work, because there is nothing in the real world that is that isolated. Everything's connected. And so I want to give you a little lesson for those of you who maybe don't have a background in economics or don't follow the news that closely. And here it is, that your economy and your military are in some sense interchangeable or proxies for the other. What I mean by that is you can't have a good military unless you've got a strong enough economy. So if you have a strong economy, you're in good shape, assuming you make the right decisions also, right? So protecting the economy is a military action. You have to understand that point. Keeping the economy strong is a military decision. It's a homeland security decision. Now, what will happen in the next coming decades if, let's say, if nothing changes from the trends we already see? Well, because China is so large, just physically, and has a number of people, its economy should, in the next, decades or two, should overcome the United States. So in very short order, at least within my lifetime even, you're going to see that the economy of China will be bigger than the United States. What does that imply for the military of China? Bigger than the United States, right? More, eventually, just because of size, they will have more power, both economically and militarily, and China uses them interchangeably. So, to get control. Now, if you have a big military, you don't actually have to go to war with a country that has a weak military. You can bribe them. You can tell them you won't protect them unless they do what you want, let's say the Middle East. You can threaten them, right? So you don't have to attack them if your military is the strongest. You can just sort of control things because people know not to get on your bad side, if you know what I mean, right? So, but then you can also directly control things through your economy because you can buy off people, you can invest with people who don't want to get you mad, you can hold out the possibility of doing business that'll make you rich, you can start a factory so you don't want to lose your factory in China. So China can find 1,000 ways to buy influence if their economy is big enough. Now, here's what I believe Trump understands and Biden does not, or Biden is already under the influence of China. Either of those two situations would explain what we observe, and I don't have an opinion of which one that is, but they're both possible. Here's what Trump understands, that all of these things which feed into the economy are really a military homeland security decision, and our biggest rival is China, and we are already at war. If you don't understand that we're already at war, or that sounds like hyperbole, you need to catch up, right? Because there's nobody who really understands the world who would disagree with the statement. Everybody who really understands international events would agree with the statement, we are already at war. It's a non-kinetic war, meaning there's, at least at the moment, there's no bullets and bombs, but it's full-out war. They're sending us fentanyl intentionally. They're stealing our IP. They're sending spies to sleep with Eric Swalwell, etc. They're buying property. They're investing in businesses. Little by little, and in 1,000 different ways, they're finding ways to buy influence over our country, and they're succeeding. And because we don't, let's say a President Biden is not going to see it as a war that's even happening. He won't even know he's at war. You don't win a war if you don't know you're in one. That's like step one. Trump knows he's in one. Now, you may have asked yourself, why do I harp on certain topics? Why is it that in a world with lots of topics, I'm not talking so much about wokeness, but I'm talking more about, let's say, nuclear power? Let's say the school, the teachers' unions. You hear me talk about them all the time. Why do I talk about those topics? Here's why. Because those topics feed directly into the economy, which feeds into the military, and is the only way to protect us from China. So, if you looked at, say, the school system, we need a really good school system to compete with China. Everybody would agree. But what's the biggest problem with our school system? The teachers' unions, who prevent any possibility of meaningful competition, and without competition, nothing works. Who influences the teachers' unions? Do you know? Who influences the teachers' unions? Well, I don't know, but they're acting as though they're influenced by China. Again, I'm not saying they're influenced by China. I don't have direct evidence of that. I'm saying that everything we observe would suggest that they're playing for China, not the United States. So, if I were president, I would say, this isn't really about a union. This is a military decision. We're not going to have shitty schools. You motherfuckers. We're not going to have shitty schools because you're going to be working for China and you're going to be in a fucking concentration camp if you keep fucking up our fucking schools. You motherfuckers. So, when you see me go off on the teachers' unions as the enemies of the United States and effectively Chinese spies, effectively, I'm not literally, but effectively they're working for the enemy. This should be a government decision. Federal government should just nationalize it. They should just ban the unions for military reasons. Because we're in a war. If our schools suck, China wins. They're fighting on the wrong side. You get that? This isn't one of the issues that's, well, this is one of many issues. And you just notice I seem to have a hard-on for this one issue. It's like, Scott, why are you so obsessed about this little issue when there's so many other things? So many other things are not going to put you in a fucking concentration camp. This will. That will put you in a fucking concentration camp if you let that problem go. That's how big it is. If you don't see that as a military problem, you don't see the whole field. Trump sees it. Trump sees it. Right? Biden does not, because the Democrats have some kind of deal with the teachers' unions, and they have a mutual, love fest, and they can keep each other in power. Take nuclear energy. Are you tired of me talking about the importance of nuclear energy for climate change, etc.? Do you know why I talk about nuclear energy so much? Is it because of climate change? A little bit. I mean, that's really important. No, I talk about nuclear energy because if we don't have the most robust domestic nuclear energy program, we won't have the right scientists and experts to control space. And if we don't control space, and you would need nuclear energy to really do it well, if we don't control space, China fucks us. Eventually. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. There is no possibility that anybody smart can see that if we leave our nuclear energy private industry where it is and don't boost it the way China is, we're fucking done. This is the end of your fucking country if you don't make this a lot better than it is. So why do I harp on this so much? Because your whole fucking country is going to be gone. You're going to be a fucking Uyghur in a concentration camp, not next year, not probably in 5 years, but that's where it's going when China gets enough control. Of course, we need a robust startup situation, so this is one of our advantages over China. They don't have quite the startup entrepreneurial situation for a variety of reasons. So we need to goose our startup world as much as possible because it's a strategic advantage for our military. For our military, right? What about all the Chinese students that we allow to come over here to our top universities, get all our good training, and then go back? Got to stop that immediately. If all we were doing is competing with an economic rival, I'd say, well, maybe we should try to have some openness and cross communication, and maybe the Chinese people who go to American schools become sort of Americanized, and that's good. That's if you're not at war. The moment you're at war, they all got to go. They all got to go right away. All of them. Doesn't matter if they're spies, because we can't tell the difference, right? It doesn't matter that many of them are just perfectly nice people who would like to be American someday. They might, but it's war, right? It's war. In a wartime situation, you don't pick and choose. You just say, this is a hole. I'm gonna block the hole. That's it. It's a war decision. We can't keep losing our IP to them. Here's the most controversial thing on the list. Geniuses drive economies, all right? You need workers for every part of the economy, but it's kind of geniuses, the super smart people who are inventing the next stuff, the AI and the space travel and all that stuff. We need more geniuses. One way to get them is through targeted immigration, where we create an immigration system that really tries to get the geniuses from, let's say, India. If we could get lots more geniuses from India who are not naturally friendly with China, we're in good shape. Recently you saw, I don't know the details of this, I think Trump was allowing more immigration from India recently. Why? Well, the more Indians we get in this country, the more defense we have against China. The Indians from India who tend to come to this country tend to be technical, tend to be educated, tend to add something right away. They assimilate immediately, almost instantly, and they're a huge strategic advantage. So when you're doing your border control and your immigration, if you're just trying to, let's say, control the population or whatever, or keep out crime, you're not doing enough. You should use your immigration and border control as a strategic military asset. And the military part is you want to get the geniuses in and get enough people, other people, that you have a good, vibrant economy, but you want to get the geniuses. Here's the other thing you need to do. In the long term, I don't know that this is avoidable. In the long term, we're going to have to make designer babies. In the long term. Because if we're not actually finding a sperm and an egg that has the right DNA to create an unusually smart person, China will. China will. So if you're looking at a 100-year war, and you should be, because it's a 100-year war, you're going to need to build some geniuses, and you're going to need to design them, and you're going to have to figure out how to change the laws and get comfortable with the ethics and the morality of it, because if you don't, they're going to have more geniuses, bigger economy, completely control us in the long run. And likewise, you have to control the border against everything from fentanyl to spies getting in. So border control should be seen as not a domestic issue. Our border control is part of our war with China. If we can keep our economy at the maximum and still want immigration, you just have to do it intelligently and control it as much as possible. So Trump gets that. He sees it. He sees the bigger picture. Persuasion, of course, is very important to the economy. Trump is good at it. Biden is bad at it. Biden's telling us our worst days are ahead. I mean, he's a disaster for persuasion for the economy. Trump is the best we've ever seen in persuasion for the economy specifically. And then, of course, one of China's big advantages is they will target an industry such as 5G, and they'll say, we're going to own 5G because it's a strategic asset. Strategic asset, read that as military. We're going to give it away. We'll own this industry because it's so important, and we'll have like our nodes everywhere that will steal the data potentially, etc. So we don't do this as much, but Trump has started a little bit. And you can see that Trump went against TikTok, he moved against Zoom, but I guess nothing happened there, or maybe they tightened up their... I don't know why Zoom is still in business. I actually don't understand that because of the Chinese Communist Party indirect connection. I just don't understand that. But you do see that Trump is more willing to be an activist from the federal government in terms of specific industries. Now, the way we've seen it is that he's pushed against 5G, and he's pushed against things that, like TikTok, etc. But we probably need to do a lot more of directly promoting the industries that have a national defense element to them, which is a lot of them, right? So we probably have to be better at that because China's good at it. So here's my field. That's my field. If you don't see that the economy and the military are basically the same thing, they're interchangeable. Now let me give you an example of that interchangeability. I'm bad at history, so if I get some of this wrong, you'll understand. Kuwait was pretty rich, but didn't have much of a military. Iran had a big military and enough money that they could use it, attacked Kuwait. But because Kuwait was rich, and a lot of countries that had big militaries, like the United States, said, hey, we'd rather keep Kuwait where it is because we might want to get some of that oil out of the ground. So effectively, Kuwait's wealth became its military. It didn't defend itself originally, but because it was wealthy, other people kicked out the Iraqi army. All right. So in all cases, think of the economy as your military, because they're interchangeable. And, oh, did I say, I meant Iraq. If I said Iran, correct that. I meant Iraq attacked Kuwait. In the comments, somebody says I accidentally said Iran, and I probably did. So, all right, I'm just looking at your comments for a moment. So here's the question or the task that I would assign to you. Look at everything that happened in 2020, all the big political news, including everything from the street riots on. Ask yourself this: how much of that would have happened the way it happened if China were not already controlling our media and our politics? Because there are two filters I can think of to explain what I watched in all of 2020. One filter is everybody went crazy and we just noticed it, or maybe they were crazy and we just noticed it. Maybe. Did everything just get crazier in 2020? It's possible, right? So it's possible that it was just a crazy year, and that's the whole story. Could have been a coincidentally crazy year. Maybe Trump, got us all worked up or something. But the other explanation for everything we saw, from the election result to the riots to even laws that got passed, even how we negotiated with China, the Biden stuff, almost all of it. Now ask yourself, what would it have looked like if the reporting and the way we filtered it was influenced by China? It would look exactly like 2020. So there are two theories. One of them is just a coincidental, random, bad year when everything happened, and the other one is that we're at war with China. And the with war with China explains every frickin' thing that you saw. Every bad decision, every absurdity, every bit of fake news could all be explained by China. I mean, even take the Swalwell impeachment stuff. Would Swalwell have been pushing impeachment as hard if he had not slept with a Chinese spy? I don't know. Maybe. But it certainly explains a lot, doesn't it? All right. I feel as if there was one other topic that you were interested in me talking about. And I don't remember what that was. Yeah, Black Lives Matter, Antifa. You would have to assume that they're all influenced directly or indirectly by Chinese money. Now, I don't know that that's true, but it would be the explanation. Oh, the stimulus. Yeah, the stimulus check. Getting back to that. So here again is something that prominent Republicans and Democrats agree about this $2,000 thing. And coincidentally, the person who's married to somebody who allegedly has Chinese connections, and that's something that needs to be fact-checked, he's the one who stops it. Just look at how many coincidences start to add up. There are a whole lot of coincidences that track back to China. And if that's an accident, I don't know.